that we need to continue to stand strong to defend everybody's rights and freedoms.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing today? Hey, okay, I'm a bit overwhelmed. I can handle this. This is, you guys kind of like blew me away. I'm, oh, I don't know what to say. Thank you. I'm glad you guys appreciate me. Wow. I mean, I put that video up because my average video usually gets like maybe 100 views, 100 and change, maybe 5 comments if I'm lucky. You guys just took the ball and ran. And I'm so wow. Well, you guys did your part, so I'll do mine. Well, seeing as I was totally unprepared for what you guys had done for me, I'm going to take the request that I think I could handle, probably the easiest for the first one. Although there was another request that I'm actually seriously considering making an actual series on the channel, because I think it would actually be really good. And I'll talk about that one at the end of the video. All right, so Mark LaForest, I believe, he asked for an understanding of the trucking industry and how it works and such. Well, the trucking industry used to be very straightforward. A shipper has a load of goods they need to transport from point A to point B, and they would just call a shipping company or a transport company, and they would dispatch a truck to go pick up that load. If it required a trailer, they would bring a trailer with them, and then they would deliver that load and charge accordingly. The trucking industry of today is very much like the hospitals of today. Okay? We spend a fortune shipping goods everywhere. Just like we spend a fortune on healthcare. But only a tiny fraction of it actually goes to treating healthcare. And the same goes for the trucking industry. Only a fraction of it ever makes it to the truck. You see, what has happened to these days is so-called trucking companies. Shippers will call a trucking company. They'll say, hey, we got this many loads that need to go, and these are where they need to go. These are the loads and everything. And then that trucking company takes that order at the rate that the shippers are paying, and then they'll sell it to smaller trucking companies, who will then in turn run out of drivers because they're a small trucking company, will take a percentage off the top of it. Then they'll sell that trip again to another trucking company, who will take a portion off the top, until it keeps going down like this until it ends up in a broker's hand, an owner-operator's hand, because they run out of trucking companies to do it. And then the companies get on that trucker to get that load there on time, even though it's spent countless amount of time being wasted trying to find a company that will actually take the load, selling it from one company to another company to another company. So now the amount of time that was allocated for the trip was sufficient amount of time for the trip to get picked up, make it to its destination with buffer time and working within legal constraints and allowing buffer time for weather or incidents along the way, traffic, whatever it may be. The trucking industry spends so much time trying to find a driver to run the load by selling the load to different companies over and over and over again. These companies have no interest in actually shipping the load. They say they do, and if they do happen to have a driver that'll take it, they may ship it, but usually they try and sell the load to someone else. So then it's someone else's problem. So by the time the driver ends up getting it, he's got just barely, I mean barely, not legally, barely enough time to deliver that load. So then that driver has to do everything in his power, whether that's manipulating his books, speeding, just constantly finding excuses for when they get there that they can use to justify they're late. Because if they can justify they're late, they don't pay a penalty. But if they can't justify being late, there's a penalty imposed, which will be passed all the way down the chain. And the only person that ends up paying that penalty is the truck driver who got it at the lowest rate that they could get it. Because that's all it was, they were willing to pay for it. So let's take a freight that costs, we'll say they're spending $6,000 shipping a load. Okay. By the time the truck driver receives that load, the actual truck driver that ends up going to get that load would be like $2,000 from all the nickel and diming that they do all along. So then they end up hiring a driver like me. I worked 22 years. I never had a ticket. I've never had an accident. I have hit a fence. I will say that. I have hit a fence once. But I have a lot of trouble in the trucking industry. One, I'm not a mechanic. Most trucking companies expect that if you're a truck driver, you're a mechanic. I've told every trucking company I've ever worked for, you can have a truck driver and a mechanic that are both really good at their jobs, or you can have a truck driver mechanic who's not good at either job. The choice is yours. I am a driver. So if you want your vehicle repaired, don't look at me because I'm not doing it. But I will operate your vehicle safely. I will operate it efficiently. And I'll operate it legally. So when it comes to me getting one of these loads that doesn't have enough time on it, I always end up being late. And then when I get to the customer, I don't BS around. I tell them flat what it is. The reason why I'm late. Companies and we tend to butt heads a lot over this because why should I lie for you? I know you're paying my salary in that, but you're actually underpaying me. You're underpaying all the truck drivers in Canada. Well, Canada, I don't know if it's elsewhere, but I'll speak on Canada. You underpay all the truck drivers for the amount of work and effort that we put in. Because you got to remember, every truck driver out there is working 14-hour days every single day with only 10 hours off. And they're back on the grind all day long. They're pumping in over 1,000 kilometers a day to do their job. And because the loads are always running with no room for error, a lot of these drivers are running 16-hour days, 20-hour days. They have to do what they have to do to get the load there. So the companies expect every driver to be that way. If you're a legal driver, you are not welcome in the trucking industry. That's the way it works. Now let's talk about another part of the trucking industry that has been coming up a lot lately. You'll see tons of ads for the same company constantly posted. Okay? They're always posted. There's tons of these ads. Oh, looking for truck drivers, looking for truck drivers, looking for AZs, looking class ones. And it's always the same companies. Always, always, always. It used to be that if you saw ads like this, that regular, yeah, that company was a bad company to work for because they go through drivers. Well, you see, these companies now are using that impression to just not hire anybody. They have no intention of hiring anybody from an ad. You see, if they run the ads and they say no one applies for their job, they can import a driver. They can bring a driver from another country into Canada, put them behind the wheel. Most times they have no idea what winter is, let alone a snowflake. And then they give them the keys to an 18-wheeler, 80,000 pounds, and they tell them, go drive these 2-lane highways in Northern Ontario. These companies have no intention of ever retaining any of these drivers. They just figure, well, if they get off a couple of trips, well, then we've made ahead. If they write off the truck, the insurance company pays for the truck. To them, it's irrelevant whether the load is getting done or not. Oh, eventually he's going to crash the truck. Okay, no big deal. We'll just get another one. The other thing they're doing is they're evading taxes because we've created this corporation method of employment, where it means that if you have a corporation, they'll hire you because they don't have to pay taxes. Taxes are your problem. This is the trucking industry today. Okay? You don't actually... Back in the day, you made a decent living. I always say, and I know I'm off by a little bit, but basically if you converted the 1980s take-home pay of a truck driver, okay, you would look at today and you're making the exact same amount, because all the expenses and everything that have jacked up. Then the government comes along and imposes more rules upon us, okay, saying that we have to put on these DEF things onto our vehicles that used to last 1,000,000 kilometers without hesitation. Okay, there's been many trucks with 3 million kilometers on it, but now with the DEF system, you're lucky if you get 700,000 out of it before you have to replace the DEF system. Now the DEF system, just a small error in it is $20,000 to repair. Okay, so there's no money to be made there. People talk about the fuel costs of trucking. There's no cost to the truck driver. It's all a tax write-off to them. Every single cent of that is a tax write-off. Okay, and that cost is all transferred right down to the consumer, because trucking companies don't pay fuel. They pay it at initially, but they just take it back when they have to pay their taxes. They take it back when they deliver the load and they submit their fuel receipts with their invoice for delivering. So this is the trucking industry of today. I'm sure I've left out a bunch of little things. But yeah. See, with all my experience, everybody and their dog will hire me. Okay? Within a month of me working for them, they're asking me to bend a rule, cheat a log, just do one more trip. Oh, come on, you can go that little extra. How about doing some shunting when you're done your 14-hour day? You know, it's just going to be another 4 or 5 hours. And I always butt heads with them. And it creates an animosity between them and I. And then that animosity just constantly keeps building because I'm like, yeah, no, go screw yourself. I put in my hours. And that just eventually just keeps building and building and building. Every time they ask me, I get frustrated with them. They get frustrated with me because I keep saying no to them. Hence, I'm not a trucker anymore. I've given up on the industry. The industry has drove me nuts. And a small secret, there's also a little piece of me since the convoy that has decided I don't want to deliver anything for Canadians anymore. I used to be proud of that. You know, everything you got, I brought it to you. Canadians showed me how much respect. Not all Canadians, let me rephrase that. My government showed me the respect that they had for truck drivers. The respect they had for hardworking Canadians. So why should I work hard to give them my tax dollars? So, I'm not a trucker anymore. I'm just a guy with a phone near a beach on a log. Anyway, so I said there was another little thing I wanted to talk about today. And that other little thing, and I never even thought of this until I read this comment, and it just blew me away, and I absolutely love the idea. Except for the fact that I have to do it on my computer rather than doing it with my phone, you know, just chatting. I'll need my computer because I'll need to reference stuff and look at stuff. But they suggested to me that maybe I do a little series of videos on the questions asked from a citizenship test. And I thought, ah, damn, that's a beautiful thing for me to do. So I decided yesterday, just out of the blue, I thought I'd go take a quick test. It's only 15 questions. I failed it. You have to get 80%, and I got 73. So I think this would be kind of good for all Canadians. So I'm going to work on figuring out a way to make this a thing. So I think it would be good for all of us. And some of the questions were really interesting. Whether I got them right or wrong, they intrigued me to want to know more. And I think this might be a direction I might be looking at doing something. So I forgot your name, but I'm going to put up a little tag of the person in here, if you haven't already seen it, of their comment. And I appreciate that comment. I think might be something to work with this. Anyway, everybody. Oh, where is it? Where are you? There you are. Come on. Welcome to the Fringe. Welcome to the Fringe.